Hello, everyone, and warm welcome to Researcher's Desk. Today, I have the enormous pleasure of welcoming Keira from Regeneration 2030. It's a great pleasure to have you with us, Keira, and to talk with us about the amazing work you guys are doing empowering youth climate activists. Thank you for being here. I'm going to turn my own camera off so we get a really lovely recording. And what I'm going to do is, if there's any technical issues at all, you'll suddenly see my face, and I'll just shout if there's anything, and I'll be in the background ready to jump in. Keira, warm welcome to Researcher's Desk. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you all, and it's also nice to be able to return the favour to Alasdair. I first met Alasdair because he came and gave a talk at one of our youth activist leadership programmes, Catalyst for Change. And he's done that 2 years running now, talking budding youth activists through the sort of basic science of climate collapse and why it's happening and how it's linked to the environmental crisis. So it's nice to be able to return the favour and come and talk about climate activist stuff to you guys, to researchers and civil society folk. Before I begin my presentation, I just realised that my presentation is very much focused on the collective, on Regeneration 2030, but I'll just explain briefly my role. I'm at the older end of our youth network. I'm the Secretary General, so I do the sort of background work to support our youth working groups and the network of youth activists that we have. I first got involved in Regeneration 2030 4 years ago when I first moved to this region. As you can tell from my accent, I'm a migrant in this region, and I moved to Åland, this fantastic demilitarized autonomous island in between Sweden and Finland. And I was desperate. I've been involved in youth climate activism in my home country, in the UK, and also in Greece, and I was desperate to get involved. And I bumped into physically Regeneration 2030's organising office in Mariehamn, in the main town. And I said, I just want to be useful. I just want to be involved, which I think is how a lot of young people feel. And they scooped me up and got me into a working group. And I've been involved in various different capacities ever since. So I'm excited to share about the work we do because I think it's really exciting. Um, yeah, I'll begin with the presentation, but I'm very open to being interrupted if you have quick clarifying questions, and then I think we'll have a discussion, more of a discussion later. So without further ado, I'm hoping you can see my screen. Yeah,
Just coming. It's on its way. Now we see it. That's lovely.
great. So these lovely faces are lots of the people involved in Regeneration 2030, which is a youth activist network across the Nordic and Baltic Sea region. So that's all of the Nordics, you know, those ones, and also Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, Germany. Um, so the background, the core understanding of the world that we have that makes us do what we do is that we've got this global deadline of 2030. And that began as, in our thinking, when we first got started with the global sustainable development goals, with those goal deadlines being 2030. But when we also started looking at a lot of the climate literature, we were finding this is often being a pinpoint of goals for, you know, staying under 1.5 degrees and avoiding cascading tipping points in the climate system. So we hang on to that goal as a way of saying this is the time by which we need massive systemic change in our region. And we focus regionally because we see that our region has really huge potential, that we've got a massive history of people's movements making structural progressive change. We've got an active civil society, we've got thriving democracies, but we have lots of people who care, you know, even in government and at high levels of power, who care about stopping climate collapse and building a better future. But at the same time, if you take into account consumption-based emissions, we are one of the absolute worst places in the world, worst economies in the world for sustainability. And then we see this generational divide in understanding and power. It's young people in our region who are like burning the most for what's happening and understanding the depth of the problem and the depth of the changes that we need. And that's why we're seeing, particularly since 2018, groups like Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion, these youth-run grassroots movements desperate for calling for change. So we started Regeneration 2030 to work with those grassroots group movements around the region, as well as individual youth, and bring them together for a cross-regional platform where we can advocate for the changes we want to see and also help each other out because we're facing a lot of the same struggles. The Fridays for Future group in Malmö will face a lot of the same challenges, both in organising, in policy, in trying to build power and get heard as a Extinction Rebellion group in Tallinn. So we try and bring these groups together to both learn from each other and build more advocacy power at a higher level. So our vision is to reach climate and social justice through political and economic change in the Nordic and Baltic Sea region. And our mission is to build youth power across the Nordic and Baltic Sea region to push for a just, sustainable transformation by 2030. Now, the way that we do this, we've got three core tenets we try and run by. The first is building solidarity. That's identifying the shared struggles and helping each other out. Then by sharpening youth knowledge and skills. So we try and work as an informal education hub to upgrade the skills and knowledge of youth taking action around the region. And third is that advocacy goal. We want to gain indirect and direct influence on policy. So that picture there you can see is one of the tools, a picture of one of the actions that we take each year to do that advocating, which are the intergenerational dialogues we hold in Mariehamn, where we talk. We have 2 hours, we talk to politicians and power holders in depth, following a youth advocacy platform, trying to get them, use storytelling to emotionally shake them and get them to change. So, a little history of how we got here. So we began as a project in 2017. So right before, if you remember that moment when Greta started her strikes and things got big, it was right before then. But there was this general sense on both a societal level and on a political level that young people are really burning for climate action and are really disappointed in what we're seeing. So it started actually as a project from the Nordic Council of Ministers, so it was top down. They saw this need and they ran us as a project on Åland, where they bring together civil society and individual youth to talk each summer at these summits about the changes youth want to see related to climate, biodiversity and sustainability. So we had our first summit in 2018, our second summit in 2019, and our third in 2020. And that was when the project came to an end. And there was a moment of trying to work out what to do. And the final decision was to give it to the youth and make it a fully independent youth-run project, which was a bit of a risky move. Most NGOs and networks like ours are run by older people for younger people. And they decided to try out this new form by giving us all the power for ourselves. So we have a youth board and a youth secretariat who run everything. And that started being the case in 2020. Then we ran our first Regeneration Week, which was our version of the summit. We decided to make them bigger and try and work less with the bigger NGOs and more with the grassroots youth groups. And that was in 2021. And we've kept running those every week and started publishing position papers, strategies that we work on collectively as a youth network, and an open letter in 2024. So that's what's the journey that we've been on, sort of from a top-down Nordic Council of Ministers supported project to this independent youth-run movement. And how we run things today is very focused on bottom-up collective organising. So even though we're a more established organisation than, say, a lot of the smaller grassroots groups like a local Extinction Rebellion chapter or a local Natura Ungdom group in Norway, we try and take those principles into everything we do. So we have bottom-up collective organising. For example, everything to do with our finances, we run via a finance working group, which any youth can join. Or the planning for our Regeneration Weeks happens also in a big workshop where we invite everyone and then we head into a smaller working group and we allow all decisions to be made. The highest decision-making body around that is the working group, who then just needs to take it to the board to check. So bottom-up collective organising is the main method that we use to get stuff done. And we also try and work together in solidarity through a committed partner network. So that was that change I described happening about 2022, 2023, when we decided to stop trying to be an online movement directly and try and work predominantly with other movements who are on the ground in local groups. So to be a sort of coalition forming body for these local groups that are doing great work on the ground. This slide looks weird. It's because I've for once formatted it cutely. So I want to talk you through how the people power is organized within Regeneration 2030. So this is what the decision-making structure looks like. Oops. We have the annual summit at Regeneration Week is like the highest decision-making body. So that's where we will write and publish advocacy statements like the position paper, which we can then use when we're consulted by powerful bodies like such as governments and the Nordic Council of Ministers. So that is the highest decision-making body of our movement. And then in the summit every year we elect a board, and the board must be from our region and a youth. And this is made up of we've got formal board members who have formal responsibilities and are on the board for 2 years, and then observers. And the board then supervises me and my two colleagues who do some of the day-to-day work of making sure that the organisation keeps running. And we work together, the board and the secretariat, to facilitate working groups. And that's where the people power comes in. We have working groups who get things done. We have a core partner network who meet regularly to make decisions, share tips with each other, and help us plan what we're doing. And then we have this bigger online community where we'll have skill shares and meetings a little bit like this, actually. I'm interested to hear how you guys run things here because it seems like a good idea. But yes, these moments where everyone gets together to build a sort of year-round community. So now I wanted to talk you through the main things we do each year. So that's the Regeneration Week, Catalyst for Change, and our online core partner network. So first, Regeneration Week. This is a picture from this summit, August in Mariehamn, of everyone at Regeneration Week. Our aims in 2025 was 1, to lobby politicians to use their power to change the system. 2, to challenge and inspire youth to understand and imagine system change. So elevate things above the individual level and start thinking about things on a sort of macro political economic level, and then see what changes need to happen to make that the case. And 3, network already existing active groups on the things that really matter and can be effective. So try and get them understanding that they are part of this wider collective struggle, knowing where their friends are, knowing where they can go for help, and also encouraging these local groups to think on a systematic strategic level. So don't get bogged down in the little things of like switching to a bamboo toothbrush, although that's great, but to think about the macroeconomic stuff and think about how we can transform our economy from a extract, create, burn, throw away into like a sustainable, circular, non-growth economy that prioritizes people and planet. So difficult stuff, but that was what we aim to do, and these are roughly what we aim to do each year. We aim to challenge and inspire to think about system change, network the groups, and then take our demands to power holders and convince them to make change. We value diversity. We often trying to recruit, make sure we've got a spread from around the region. This is particularly helpful when we see divides between the Nordics and the Baltics in the types of action that are available. We often find our friends in the Baltics telling our friends in the Nordics that it's helpful to learn about how they're doing things. And in turn, the Nordics telling the Baltics it's really interesting to hear their perspectives and their different experiences from the last 20 plus years and the histories that they're working with. So we try and make sure we've got a good spread from around the region. And we also try and prioritise recruitment of young people and groups who are often less represented in the youth climate movement. So people from working class backgrounds, groups with lots of people from ethnic minority backgrounds, people with refugee status, young youth from indigenous groups, because we know from looking at the history of successful people's movements in our region, from winning votes for women to getting an 8-hour working day, all of this stuff was won by broad coalitions of young people from all walks of life. So we're trying to make sure that the youth climate movement looks like that. So just an example of what we achieved last Regeneration Week. Please excuse the wall of text. We had about 100 young people and 100 politicians, with at least 80% of the countries represented, and with no more than 30% represented from one area. And we asked people when they were leaving how they were feeling. The majority of people said that they felt that they felt inspired, that they learned, and that they gained new knowledge. We were about 58% saying that they felt they understood system change better. So that's something we felt like we could work on. And about 58% said they felt inspired, they felt prepared to talk to politicians more in the future. Um, and here are some pictures, and you can see roughly how the vibe has been evolving and changing from 2021, where we were slightly more formal, more suited up, through some different years of more activisty vibes, but with the same goal each time, which is that it's our region, it's our future. Therefore, we need to mobilise around it. We need to fight for it, and we need to be listened, because it's us who it's going to affect all these changes in the future. The second thing that we do every year, which I wanted to talk to you guys about, is the Catalyst for Change programme. And this is where I first met Alasdair and first heard about Researchers' Desk. So Catalyst for Change is the opportunity we saw is that we've got lots of these groups around the region who don't know each other so well. And there's very few, if we're trying to change the system, when you're trying to make big change, the last people who are going to be most invested in doing that is the people who are benefiting most from the current system. So we noticed that if you look at advertising, if you look at the videos that are doing best on TikTok, and also if you look at school curriculums, you're not going to find people telling you the best strategic ways to make massive change. So collective action, whether that's direct action, marches, doing big advocacy campaigns, you're not going to be taught how to do that in school. So we decided that we need to do it. We, as Gen Z, Gen Alpha, we need to teach each other how you do this. So we collect together about 25 young people from around the region, and we try and find young people who are we prioritize 16 to 21, but we do also have some 21 to 25 who take part. We want to find young people who are already active, or who are they really want to get active, they want to get involved, but they just don't know how. And we bring them together for 6 months of online workshops and training, sharing their experiences from around the region. And then we mentor them through summer action projects. So we say, go out there, find your people, get active, make change happen. So that's what that looks like roughly. We begin about April, May, and we talk to them about, okay, Alasdair, Climate Change 101, which is where Alasdair was involved. And then the yellow stuff is what we ask them to do in their home time. So we're not focusing, it's not like a school course, it's not like a uni course, there's not a lot of reading that we do. We try and focus on getting active and taking action. And that's what we're always pushing the Catalyst to do in their free time. So in the workshop, we look at Climate Change 101. And then what we challenge them to do in their evenings is find local groups in their areas, map out, okay, who's active? What's going on in my town? Then in our second workshop, we look at Activism 101. What is it? Why do we do it? And what are some different models for doing it? And then we challenge them to, with these local groups that they found, attend some meetings or actions, try and get the vibe, check whether it's the right thing for them, meet some people, make some connections, and attend meetings or actions in their local area. And then the third workshop we have is a skills bootcamp, where we give them lots of options for what they want to learn, and they go into different Zoom rooms and they will find activists there ready to talk to them about how to organise a march, or how to organise other people, or how to plan a campaign. And then after that, it's the summer, and they're in small support squads where they can talk to each other, and they plan and execute their own projects. So sometimes that can be, they got involved with a local Fridays for Future group, and they just got involved with the actions that were happening there. They organised weekly demonstrations and maybe an evening info talk. Or we found that some youth, especially in rural areas or in areas where there wasn't already a youth climate group, they start their own project. So that most of the summer they spend talking to people, finding people who might want to be involved, getting people together, making a plan, maybe making a logo, picking targets, finding strategies. And that's always, for me, the most exciting one. I love hearing about that at the end of the summer. So that's what they're doing through June and July. And then in August, they're all invited to come to Regen Week. So we sort of try and make sure that all the actions we're doing around the year overlap and support each other. And at Regen Week, we have an evaluation together and a graduation. So that's what we do. What we achieved last year, we had 84% of the young people who took part completed the course and graduated. We had 30% doing a full independent summer project and presentation. So that's something we're working on next year, is how to make the reporting on it less heavy. Because what we found is a lot of young people doing stuff, but then not wanting to write up a big essay about what it was. There's two different skills. 65% said that they developed and used a new skill. 4 local groups identified by each participant on average. So we got this brilliant map that came out of it of who's active where. And 13% of the projects that were completed were in areas where there was previously no youth action. So that's the one I'm most proud of, that we were successful in catalysing change in new areas. The third thing that we have all year round, which sometimes we forget to talk about because it's less of like a shiny thing that we do and more just like a part of the lifeblood of how we work. But I think it was important to talk to you about today, is this partner network that we have. So this is a group of 18 different grassroots youth organisations and societies that are taking action locally around the Nordic and Baltic Sea region. And we meet with them, I would say, every 2 months roughly, to talk to them both about what we're doing. So, for example, we're just kicking off Catalyst for Change. So in a couple of weeks, we will be talking to these guys and saying, what would strengthen your movements from your perspective? What's most important from an informal education program for youth activists? And they'll be feeding in and giving ideas through to like skill shares and stuff that we do together, and seminars where we'll be talking more about challenges we face together, like funding or organising or how to deal with issues where there's a lot of argumentation about it in our movements at the moment. So we work with from like both quite large groups, for example, Natura Ungdom, who are, where are they on this? There they are at the bottom here by next to Emmaus. That's the largest youth environmental organisation in Norway. They've got like tens of thousands of members. They're really big. It's fantastic to work with them. They've got a lot of good skills to share with the rest of the movement. We work with groups as big as that through to much smaller grassroots groups, like, for example, Ålands Natur och Miljö, which is also the biggest environmental grassroots network, but in Åland, which is so obviously has a lot less members because Åland only has a population of 60,000. So it's also quite a joy for me to get to work on these different levels with these different groups. And we maintain both like a lot quite close contact with each other, but without too much formal coalition stuff. So it allows a lot of room for creativity and solidarity building. Yeah, and I think that was the most of the stuff I wanted to talk you through. I'd love to hear your questions and see what's most interesting to you guys. But before I stop yapping, I wanted to just shout out that if you're interested in our work, you can follow us on various forms of social media. We've got TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we also have WhatsApp networks, but those are mostly youth to youth. So let me know if I can't see anyone's face and I don't want to judge, but if you are under 30 and interested in taking part, please do message me. And we can add you to some of our WhatsApp chats and our Slack if you're interested. And with that, I will just say thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And I'm not going to pretend I'm under 30. You're not going to believe me anyhow. Keira, thank you for an absolutely spectacular presentation and also for the fantastic work that you're doing.